Sometimes the songs we love most almost never made it. Radio stations passed them over, record executives called them too long or too weird, and the public barely noticed when they first came out. But then something changed. These are 10 flops from 1970s that turned into hits. Number 10, Dream On by Aerosmith. When Aerosmith released their self-titled debut album in 1973, Steven Tyler had high hopes for the ballad he'd written years earlier while still a teenager. The song combined piano-driven verses with soaring vocals that showcased Tyler's incredible range, building from a whisper to a scream. Tyler had worked on the lyrics at his family's home in Sunapee, New Hampshire, dreaming about making it in the music business. But when Columbia Records pushed it as the lead single, the response was brutal. The song peaked at a disappointing number 59 on the charts outside of Boston. Critics compared Aerosmith unfavorably to Bruce Springsteen and the New York Dolls. The album itself struggled to sell, barely moving units in record stores. Columbia Records executives seriously considered dropping the band entirely, viewing them as a failed investment. For 2 years, Aerosmith kept touring relentlessly, playing anywhere that would have them. Building a loyal following through electrifying live performances, they performed in small clubs, college campuses, anywhere they could find an audience. The band refused to give up, convinced that their music would eventually connect with listeners if they could just get in front of enough people. Then, in 1975, after the success of songs like Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way from their Toys in the Attic album, Columbia reluctantly agreed to give Dream On another chance. The label re-released the single in 1976, and this time, everything was different. Listeners were ready. Tyler's emotional delivery and the song's powerful crescendo connected with audiences in a way it hadn't 3 years earlier. The re-release climbed all the way to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. Today, Dream On stands as Aerosmith's signature song and the blueprint for the power ballad. Rolling Stone later ranked it among the 500 greatest songs of all time. Ironically, guitarist Joe Perry admitted in his memoir that he was never crazy about the song when they first recorded it, considering it too slow and not representative of the band's harder edge. But that soft beginning building to the explosive finale became the template countless rock bands would follow for decades. Every power ballad that came after, from bands like Journey to Bon Jovi, owed something to Dream On. Number 9. Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. Eric Clapton was already a legend by 1970. Fans had literally scribbled, "Clapton is God" on walls around London. But when he formed Derek and the Dominoes and released Layla and other assorted love songs in November 1970, he wanted to disappear into the music rather than be a superstar. Clapton's name appeared only on the back cover. The band's identity was deliberately vague. And the title track, inspired by Clapton's desperate love for Pattie Boyd, the wife of his friend George Harrison, ran over 7 minutes long. The album failed to chart at all in the United Kingdom. In the United States, it stalled at number 16. When Atco Records released an edited version of Layla as a single in March 1971, cutting it down to just 243, the song peaked at a miserable number of 51. Record executives couldn't understand it. Producer Tom Dowd thought it was the best album he'd been involved with since working with Ray Charles, but nobody seemed to care. Clapton fell into a deep, drug-fueled depression over the failure. Then, in 1972, something shifted. The History of Eric Clapton compilation album included Layla, and this time the full 7-minute version with that gorgeous piano coda by Jim Gordon. Radio stations started playing it. The tragic death of Duane Allman in a motorcycle accident in October 1971 had renewed interest in his stunning guitar work on the track. When the single was re-released, it finally became the hit it should have been all along, reaching number 7 in the UK and number 10 in the United States. By December of 1972, 2 years after its initial flop, Layla was everywhere. The song became Clapton's signature piece. Though by then he was past caring much about commercial success, the desperate, unrequited love that inspired it eventually worked. Pattie Boyd left George Harrison in 1974 and married Clapton in 1979, though that marriage would also end in divorce by 1988. The 1992 acoustic, unplugged version introduced Layla to yet another generation and won a Grammy, but nothing matched the raw power and tragedy of that original Derek and the Dominoes recording that the world initially rejected. Number 8. I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. Rockford, Illinois band Cheap Trick had been grinding it out since 1973, building a reputation as a dynamic live act through constant touring. When they released their second album in color, in September 1977, the lead single was a song guitarist Rick Nielsen had written almost as a joke. I Want You to Want Me was meant to be an over-the-top pop song, like Cheap Trick doing ABBA, but heavy. The studio version featured a medium tempo with a country feel and a honky-tonk piano throughout, giving it an almost music hall quality. American radio completely ignored it. The single didn't chart at all in the United States. Japan was a different story. Japanese fans went crazy for Cheap Trick, and I Want You to Want Me became a #1 single there. The band's albums were going gold in Japan while they remained relatively unknown in America. By 1978, Cheap Trick had actually dropped the song from their set lists, but when they toured Japan in April 1978, they restored it because Japanese audiences demanded it. Those concerts at Nippon Budokan in Tokyo were recorded and released as the album Cheap Trick at Budokan. Initially, it was only supposed to be for the Japanese market, but the import copies started selling like crazy in America. And Epic Records realized they had something special. When they released the album domestically in February 1979, the live version of I Want You to Want Me was pulled as a single. This version was completely transformed. Faster, harder, with 2 guitar solos instead of a piano fill, captured with a frenzied Japanese crowd screaming in the background. The live version shot to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1979, more than 19 months after the studio version had flopped. It reached number 2 in Canada and became Cheap Trick's signature song. The album sold over 3 million copies. Bassist Tom Peterson later said he and Nielsen criticized the lightweight production of the original studio version so much that they even re-recorded the entire in-color album in 1997, though that version was never officially released. Sometimes a song just needs to be captured in the right moment, with the right energy and 19 months of patience. Number 7. Maggie May by Rod Stewart.
Oh, Maggie, I couldn't have tried anymore.
Rod Stewart was already an established figure in early 1970s rock music. He'd honed his craft with the Jeff Beck group in the Faces before going solo. When he recorded Maggie May in 1970 for his album Every Picture Tells a Story, nobody at the label thought it was single material. The song was released in 1971 as the B-side to Reason to Believe. That's right. The song that would become Rod Stewart's breakthrough wasn't even considered good enough to be the A-side. Mercury Records promoted Reason to Believe, which became a minor hit. But radio DJs kept flipping the record over. There was something about Maggie May that resonated. That mandolin riff. Stewart's raspy vocals telling the autobiographical story of a young man's affair with an older woman. The raw honesty of the lyrics. DJs started playing the B-side instead of the A-side, and listeners responded in droves.
Oh, Maggie, I couldn't have tried anymore.
By fall of 1971, months after the single's original release, Maggie May had climbed to number 1 on both sides of the Atlantic. It helped Every Picture Tells a Story hit the top spot in both the US and UK simultaneously. Rod Stewart arguably owes his 6-decade career to those DJs who had the instinct to flip that record over and play the song the record company had dismissed. Stewart himself admitted he didn't think much of the song initially. Today, Maggie May remains Stewart's best-known and best-loved hit, the song that defined him as a solo artist.
You stole my heart, and that's what really hurts.
Number 6, Tiny Dancer by Elton John.
Tiny dancer in my hand.
Between 1972 and 1976, Elton John scored an incredible 16 Billboard Hot 100 Top 20 hits in a row and 7 #1 albums in a row. The man was commercially untouchable, as dominant as Taylor Swift would become decades later, which makes it almost unthinkable that he had a flop during this golden era. But when Tiny Dancer was released as a single from the 1971 album Madman Across the Water, it failed to crack the top 40. The ballad, with Bernie Taupin's tender lyrics about California girls and Elton's sweeping piano arrangement, just didn't connect with audiences the way his other songs did. Some music historians suggest the problem was the editing. The single version removed portions that gave the full album version its perfect pacing, robbing the song of the emotional payoff that made the ending so cathartic. Whatever the reason, Tiny Dancer quietly became a favorite for hardcore Elton John fans who owned the album, but it didn't get radio play or mainstream attention. For nearly 3 decades, the song remained a deep cut known mainly to diehard fans. Then in 2000, director Cameron Crowe featured Tiny Dancer prominently in his film Almost Famous. The scene where the characters on the tour bus all sing along became one of the most memorable movie moments of that year. Suddenly, a whole new generation discovered what Elton John fans had known all along: that Tiny Dancer was one of his most beautiful, heartfelt songs. The film's success finally elevated the song to its rightful place within John's catalog. Today, it's one of his most requested and beloved songs at concerts, a true sing-along favorite. It just took 29 years to get there. Number 5, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Record executives thought Queen had lost their minds. A 6-minute rock opera with bizarre lyrics about Galileo and Bismillah? No way. Too long for radio, they declared, shaking their heads at what Freddie Mercury and his bandmates had created. In 1975, radio programmers had strict rules about song length. Anything over 3.5 minutes was considered commercial suicide. The standard was 3 minutes, maybe 3.5 if you were lucky. 6 minutes? Absolutely impossible. The executives at EMI Records were particularly nervous about the song's 3 distinct sections: the ballad opening, the operatic middle with all those layered harmonies, and the hard rock conclusion. It broke every rule about commercial song structure. Freddie Mercury and the band refused to edit a single second of Bohemian Rhapsody. They'd spent weeks perfecting the layered vocals for the operatic section, recording take after take to get the harmonies just right. Brian May had crafted intricate guitar parts that wove through the different movements. Roger Taylor and John Deacon had locked into rhythms that shifted with each section. Every second was essential to the song's impact. Cutting it would destroy what made it special. The band bypassed traditional channels and took matters into their own hands. Mercury gave a copy to DJ Kenny Everett, who was a friend of the band, with strict instructions not to play it on air. This was a strategic move. They knew Everett, who had a mischievous streak, would probably do exactly the opposite of what he was told. Everett, of course, did exactly that. He played it 14 times in one weekend on his radio show. The station's phones lit up with listeners demanding to know what the song was and where they could buy it. The public response was so overwhelming that other stations had to start playing it too. EMI Records had no choice but to release it properly as a single, despite all their initial reservations.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Bismillah.
Bohemian Rhapsody topped the UK charts for 9 weeks and became one of rock's most revered compositions. The gamble of refusing to compromise paid off spectacularly. The song's success in 1975 was remarkable, but it would have an even bigger second life. When it appeared in the 1992 film Wayne's World, a whole new generation discovered it, and the song returned to the charts once again. Today, it's considered one of the greatest rock songs ever recorded, and its revolutionary structure influenced countless artists. But in 1975, the experts said it was too weird, too long, and would never work. Queen proved that sometimes breaking all the rules is exactly what creates a masterpiece. Number 4. The Passenger by Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop's solo career hit its stride in 1977 during his partnership with David Bowie in Berlin. The two were supposedly fleeing the rampant substance problems that had dominated their lives elsewhere. Though the brooding lyrics of The Passenger suggest they couldn't quite resist Berlin's cold charm, Bowie produced both The Idiot and Lust for Life that year, and The Passenger appeared on the latter album.
I am the passenger. I stay under.
Despite the quality of the work and critical acclaim, The Passenger never charted when it was released in 1977. It wasn't pushed as a single, and outside of Iggy Pop's devoted fan base, not many people heard it. The song's hypnotic rhythm and Iggy's distinctive vocals describing riding through the city at night had all the makings of a classic, but commercial success just didn't happen. Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, it remained a cult favorite, beloved by those who knew it but largely unknown to mainstream audiences. Decades later, The Passenger began appearing in films, television shows, and advertisements. Each placement introduced it to new listeners who connected with its unique atmosphere. The song experienced a remarkable resurgence, with bands covering it and DJs rediscovering it. Today, it's considered one of Iggy Pop's signature songs and a classic of the era. Music critics and fans recognize it as essential listening from the Bowie-Iggy Berlin period. It just took 20 years for everyone else to figure out what the early fans already knew. Number 3. Money by Pink Floyd. In 1973, Pink Floyd created what radio programmers considered a nightmare. Money featured an unusual 7 4-time signature that made dancing impossible. It contained profanity. It ran well over standard radio length at nearly 7 minutes. And it had cash register sound effects and saxophone solos. Capitol Records executives worried it was too experimental for American audiences. Who would want to hear a song about greed with such an unconventional structure? But the song's hypnotic bass line proved irresistible. The lyrics about capitalism and materialism resonated with listeners in ways the record company hadn't anticipated. Radio stations created edited versions removing the profanity, and despite the odd time signature and length, Money became Pink Floyd's first American hit single. It paved the way for Dark Side of the Moon to become one of the best-selling albums of all time, spending an incredible 736 consecutive weeks on the Billboard 200. The song that was too weird, too experimental, too long, ended up being the breakthrough that made Pink Floyd a commercial force. Roger Waters' sarcastic lyrics about money being the root of evil, delivered over that unforgettable 7/4 riff, captured something about the early 1970s that audiences needed to hear. Sometimes being too different is exactly what makes a song unforgettable. Money proved that a time signature change, some sound effects, and 6+ minutes of cynicism could work just fine if the song was brilliant enough. Number 2. Marquee Moon by Television. The New York new wave scene of the mid-1970s produced some of the most innovative rock music of the decade. Television, with Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd's dual guitars, created sounds that recalled jazz and classical music while staying rooted in garage rock. Their 1977 debut album, Marquee Moon, was groundbreaking, featuring the 10-minute title track with its intricate weaving guitar lines and surreal lyrics. In the United States, Marquee Moon failed to chart at all. American audiences in 1977 weren't ready for television's weird brilliance. The album did enjoy a following in the United Kingdom, where it reached the top 40, but even there, the band never achieved mainstream success. The title track was too long, too complex, too far outside the boundaries of what radio would play. For years, television remained a band that critics loved and musicians revered, but one that never found a mass audience. Decades later, the critical reputation of Marquee Moon grew to legendary status. Musicians cited it as a major influence. The album appeared on countless best-of lists. Bands from different genres pointed to Verlaine and Lloyd's guitar interplay as transformative. Today, Marquee Moon is considered one of the essential albums of the 1970s, and the title track is recognized as a masterpiece. It just took 20 years for the rest of the world to catch up to what a small group of fans knew in 1977. That television had created something extraordinary. Number 1. I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. In 1978, Polydor Records thought so little of I Will Survive that they buried it as the B-side to a forgettable cover version of Substitute. The record label executives dismissed Gloria Gaynor's empowerment anthem as merely album filler, nothing special. They promoted the A-side and expected that to be the single that got radio play. The disco era was in full swing, and labels were churning out dance tracks, but nobody at Polydor thought this particular song about surviving a breakup had any commercial potential. Then, DJs started flipping the record. The song's message of strength and survival after heartbreak connected with listeners in an immediate, powerful way. Women especially responded to the declaration of independence and resilience. Radio stations started getting requests specifically for the B-side. Listeners wanted to hear I Will Survive, not the song the label was pushing. Word of mouth spread, and the song started climbing the charts despite having no official promotion. I Will Survive became a massive hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1979 and winning a Grammy Award. It became an anthem not just for breakups, but for overcoming any kind of adversity. The song that was dismissed as album filler became one of the defining songs of the disco era and one of the most enduring hits of all time. Decades later, it remains instantly recognizable, used in films, television shows, and as a rallying cry. Gloria Gaynor will forever be known for the song her record label initially considered worthless. Sometimes the executives are dead wrong about what matters. These 10 songs prove that nobody really knows what makes a hit. The record executives, the radio programmers, the critics, they all passed judgment, and they were all wrong. Some songs needed time, some needed the right version, some needed a second chance, but they all had one thing in common. They were better than anyone initially realized. The next time you hear Dream On or Layla or Bohemian Rhapsody, remember that someone in a position of power once said these songs wouldn't work. They said they were too long, too weird, too different. And thank goodness, the songs proved them wrong. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more fascinating stories about the music we love.